Welcome to Questions and Conversations on Leadership and Life. Today we are taking a closer look at four essential types of questions: purpose, past, present, and possibility, and how they can transform not just meetings, but relationships, learnings, and even the way we see ourselves. Whether you are leading a team, hosting a dinner, or simply curious about deeper connections, this conversation is for you. And we are on. That was supposed to be the video thing.
Oh,
Didn't work.
okay. Well, I'm sure you'll bring some great music. Well, welcome everybody. This is another episode of Questions and Conversations on Leadership and Life. And I'm Steve.
And I'm Poli. Good to be here with you, Steve.
Yeah, good to be
Ready?
here with you, Polly. And Polly, this podcast is intentionally named Questions and Conversations on Leadership and Life. Well, we want to focus today on questions and conversations. And why questions?
Why conversations? Why is
Can I
that?
give you a couple thoughts on that, Polly?
I
About
love
the
that
power of
because
questions?
yes,
Okay,
please
very
go
good.
ahead. Go
And
ahead.
to our listeners. So if you believe like Polly and I do, and what Dan Sullivan, founder of Strategic Coach, posits, is that our mind cannot ignore a good question. Also, if you believe like Polly and I do, and what we learn from our exchange, facilitation, and leadership community, that our world changes as soon as the question is asked, even before the answer appears. Our world changes as soon as the question is asked.
I love that one.
Yes. So,
'Cause-
questions and conversations is the gateway to unlocking the potential in the room. Most gatherings, they have everything they need to address the training, the learning, the problem they're trying to solve. But questions are the gateway to allow the collective wisdom of the room to be brought into the room and address or learn from each other. So,
Yeah.
Polly, we thought, well, it's beyond the scope of this, 20 minutes, 25 minutes we have together. You and I talked this morning. We thought it might be helpful to just help people with maybe the four basic building blocks as you think about, well, okay, that's great. Questions, you're telling us questions are great. Well, how do we even go about starting to think about what types of questions to ask? So I thought it might be helpful, or we thought it might be helpful, to just go through kind of our four main buckets of questions. And I'll just read them first, and then maybe, Polly, you and I can go back and forth between these four categories.
Yep,
Did
absolutely.
you have a thought?
Steve,
Look like you.
yes, I have, because
Yeah.
the second sentence you brought is still like resonating in my mind. Would you
Okay.
mind saying that one again about the questions that change the world before even
Oh,
we
yes.
can we explore it a little more?
Our world changes as soon as the question is asked, even before the answer appears.
Yeah, and I would like to go a little deeper in that.
Sure.
How
What's
do
that stir up for you?
yes, how do we think of that when we think how is our world going to change even before the questions that we bring out or the answers arrive? That's such an open door for everyone actually thinking of this. Because it really, when you were thinking of the question, you were already projecting yourself. So that's what happens. When you were thinking of what to ask, you were really making an image of the environment you're gonna get in. Even if it is just like, okay, what am I asking right now? You were projecting it. You were making playing with the canvas of your mind, and that starts being built. So
It's
that's why, yeah.
it's a possibility thing, and that prompted a thought that I've shared with my daughters as they were growing up. I think it's a Steve Campana original. At least I like to believe it is, but I'm sure I robbed and duplicated it from someone else. I just don't remember who. R&D, just so you know, that's rob and duplicate, so not research and development. But that is, if you don't like the answers life is giving you, start asking yourself better questions.
Yes, yes. Different perspective, different lenses, better questions can change
Yeah.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for just digging a little deeper
No,
into that
well,
because
thank you
I
for
really
asking.
love that part, that sentence we constantly talk about when we are with our groups at exchange. So
Hmm.
I just thought we could let's dig a
Yeah.
little.
Well,
And let's
thank.
now go to the blogs. Oh, sorry.
No, that's great. Thanks for the exploration. That was fun. Well, yeah, let's just, there's four main categories, and certainly, a case can be made that there's many more categories, but we found it helpful to just, for the most part, focus on these. So I'll read the four, and then we might just go back and forth about, the definition. So you can ask a purpose question. These
Mm-hmm.
all start with P. So a
Polly.
purpose question. You
Yes.
can ask a past question, something in the past. You can ask a present question, what's going on today, or a possibility question. So those are the four main categories. I'll repeat them again: purpose, past, present, or possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And you may, if you saw last week's episode where we did the 5I framework, you'll notice that those are pretty much the same questions that's in that appreciative inquiry framework. But Polly, why don't you share, if you would, tell us what do we mean when we say a purpose question?
Mm. And it's one of my favorites to kick off any
Okay.
meetings, any gatherings. It's when we get to the core of something, the purpose of something. So it's the why question. And these questions, they help the people who are with you, the participants of a gathering, or if you were together with a friends, to go deeper in the meaning of the gathering. It's right in there in the core. Why are we here in this podcast? Why is it important for us to be here in this podcast? Because we believe that if one person listens to it and replicates to one another, we are expanding minds, ideas, and building bridges with one another through questions and conversations. Oh, I
Through
gave the
questions and
answer.
conversation. Well, this is great. Uh, we're gonna go through all four questions just like this. I'm gonna ask you. Thanks for the share. I'm gonna read what, like in our guidebook, what was written down from that, and then we'll
Mm-hmm.
just go through all four questions. I'd love to hear your reflection first, and then I'll kind of read you the accountant's textbook answer, and then
Hoo-hoo.
Polly's practical answer. So purpose, in our playbook is questions which invite us to connect to a deeper sense of purpose, meaning, or fulfillment in general, or in relation to the meeting, event, gathering, or task at hand. So that would be kind of the framework for a purpose question. And I love, Polly, how you simplified it with the now ever famous start with why.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So,
good.
well, let's do that again. So the next type of question is past. So Polly, from your breadth of experience in the heart, when you think of a past question, what comes up for you?
We actually have two situations in the past. One that we are visiting a high point story, something that happened to us in the past, and another view that we can go into the wisdom we bring from the learnings or something happened. So we are exploring our past experiences and bringing them to the present moment as a strength. Either if it was like, yes, that worked, let's keep on working. That was not good. How can we make it different? And our stories matter. So hashtag history matters, our stories matter. We needed to explore those, and we have specific ways of bringing those questions to our audience, to the ones who are with us. If you did the 5I inquiry with us, we explored those. Like, what are the strengths you can bring? What are the lessons you can bring to the now so you can explore your next project? So these are great ways to revisit, but making them become a strength for you going ahead.
Well,
Mm.
I really
Short
appreciated
version.
that. And I like the way the high point story, um, that's that's really celebrating
Yes,
because because we really, in order to move to our next level of accomplishment, we must acknowledge our accomplishments of the past. Many people forget that step and they just stay plateaued. But this building block, we have to acknowledge our successes and build on that. Then we can go to the next level. So that's the high point story. And then would you call it a wisdom story?
correct.
Yeah, that resonated because lessons are repeated until they're learned. And
So
so
true.
you're sharing wisdom when you bring that story or question in the whole room. You're helping people learn lessons from each other
Hmm.
and accelerates the process. So thank you for that. Well, the next category we have is present. It's a category of question. It's a present category. So Polly, what does, when you think of the types of present questions you might ask, what comes up for you?
I use those a lot when I am
Okay.
like facilitating courses, and there comes a piece of teaching throughout the course, and it's pretty much like, look at that. What stirs up right now for you with this piece of information? What is an aha moment that you are having listening to this? What is something that you want to remember going forward? So circle that, make an asterisk, write it on a post-it, just like that's the information you want to have. I would call that active cycle or active learning cycle. So you are
Okay.
looking what you are learning. It's what you're
Well,
learning.
yeah, I really like that. Did you have something else?
Oh, I was also going to say about appreciation. When we bring some appreciation, that's also a present question. So, what do you appreciate about what you are listening? What do you appreciate about the person that is in front of you? Or what are you grateful for at this moment? These questions are also in the present, and they
Yeah, I like
connect.
that. It stirred up two things for me. That little book with the next to my ship back there is The Way of the Peaceful Warrior
Mm-hmm.
by Dan Millman. Read it many, many, many years ago. Um, but the present moment, there are no ordinary moments. So stay in the present. And I also liked what I heard from you saying is capture that aha moment, capture that learning, capture that idea. Because we also believe that transformation doesn't necessarily come from the event we attended, the experience we went through. Transformation happens when we take the pause, take the time
Mm.
to reflect on that learning, that experience, or in our terms today, on the present moment. So
Yes.
thank you for that. Well, I can
Yes.
read the definition, at least the guidelines for us from our playbook is present. These are questions designed to presence key learnings, share appreciation, or identify strengths that are present among individuals, teams, or entire groups. And Polly, you covered that very well.
Yeah. Oh, I love this.
Okay, well, very
I
good. Well,
love
we
this.
love questions and conversations. So
Exactly.
the last broad category is possibility. So Polly, when you think of oh, would a possibility question be appropriate for this training, this learning, this gathering, this moment in time within any of those events? What comes up for you when you're trying to think through possibility questions?
This is when you imagine your future, what might happen, possibility, what might happen if everything goes well. And beyond that, how does it feel for you? So, what might you are projecting, you are visualizing? Once again, you are using the canva of your mind to create that and to paint the colors you want and how big or how small you want. These are the kind of questions that, and when you were projecting, it's visioning, you're visualizing, and you were working into that to make it happen. And then comes another kind of question which we usually bring right after, which is the action to the possibility. So, what is one small step that you can take right now? And what's one bigger step or bold action that you needed to make this possibility possible?
Yeah, I really love the possibility question as you framed it because I believe it takes down barriers. It just opens up our mind, frees our mind to think of what's possible. Like the question, Polly, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? It eliminates that. It gets us, I think, into the thinking of the what's, yeah, just imagining. Stephen Covey posited that the mental creation happens first before the physical creation can be executed. So we have to see it. When we see it, we believe it, then we can execute it. In athletic training, um, probably came from other places, but I recall it from when boxing was big. Is what the mind can conceive, the body will achieve. So that is just a possibility thought.
And I am no neuroscience doctor, but I believe when you were creating, when you have the mind and you were painting your canvas of life, of your journey, you are releasing all the hormones that gets you excited to
Hmm.
do this. But then you need the action also.
Hmm.
And that's why
Yeah.
it comes
Yes.
along. Because sometimes, yes, you release all those hormones. Oh, that's so beautiful. I want to do that. And then you just hang the picture and you just look at that. And it's like,
Well,
okay.
yes, never leave the scene of a decision without taking action. And that can be this, what's the smallest, simplest thing I can do next that's totally dependent on me, to what's a big, bold, brave step that I might take. So I love that, Polly. Well, I can read what is written down here for
Mm-hmm.
possibility. You ready?
Go for it.
Possibility. Questions designed to invite us to imagine the future we most desire and how it might be brought to life through ideas. Here's your word, Polly, through ideas, action, and commitments.
There you go. There you go.
And
Yes.
so that was a wonderful exploration. And so we gave you the four categories: purpose, past, present, or possibility. And within each of those, even though, they're phrased past, present, or possibility, you can always consider, well, okay, do I want to have them look back in time? So history, present, or future. So you can work those in, like even on the purpose question, you can bring in past, present, or future. So kind of
Mm-hmm.
those are your dimensions. And that's like our go-to playbook when we start thinking about what questions would best serve this gathering, this meeting, this one-on-one. Um,
And I
be,
can tell you even something very interesting from my experience using these questions, these categories. I facilitated conversations between non-English speakers with Portuguese speakers, Brazilian Portuguese speakers, and I can bring these two cultures together in 1 hour. They do not know one another. They are there because part is practicing one language, part is practicing the other language. But then there is common ground with the language they will be using one day is X or Y, or either English or Portuguese. And they get to at ease to connect it to actually to connect to themselves, reflecting on the question, and then connecting to one another using the vocabulary they have for that kind of question. And at the end, it is just amazing to see how two different cultures together, two different languages together, but based using one in common for that specific moment, they're like, oh my gosh, it feels like I know this person for so long, or it feels like I have a friend. It was so good to be here. I was skeptical, but then you made it possible with this question. So, yes, questions matter. And the way you bring them in matter even more most. It's and
yeah.
thank you just for me this speech to you.
Well, yeah. And Polly, we talked about this inside of kind of a gathering business context. At least that was going through my mind, but I'd like to open the door and suggest that if you're having a group of friends over for dinner or um, questions and conversations can be a powerful way to get to know each other, even if you've known each other for a long time. And in a business context, why we like questions so much is so many typical meetings, gatherings, if you will, in the business context are one or two people presenting information and ending the meeting with, are there any questions? Versus using the questions to guide the training, guide the meeting, and bring all the voices, or at least invite all the voices into the room. But the dinner party example is my first
Yeah.
experience with exchange. Was John and Adair, the founders, facilitated a 3-day gathering on the very first night. We might have went around the room and done introductions, and then they said, "Here's what we're going to do. We've got a buffet dinner lined up for you. Nothing's really starting till tomorrow, but we're going to give you about 3 or 4 minutes to write on the index card we've given you a question you'd like to explore during this 3-day training together, or a question you're curious about. It might be a purpose question like, why are you here? Could be, what do you want to, what are you hoping to get out of this training? And just write it on the index card. And then at dinner, after you've had dinner, we'll tell you what you're going to do next. So we went through a buffet line. Everybody had their cards on the table. And the way it was choreographed is they intentionally had us in groups of 4, tables of 4. Turn the cards over on the front of the table. Who's ever of the head or heart to go first can pick any of the 4 questions
Hmm.
to ask the group, and then who's ever of the head or heart to share, and it's totally voluntary. If you don't really, if that question isn't something you have a point of view on or something that maybe you just don't want to explore, that's fine. You can just say pass. Uh, but those 3 people would share. The person with the card that asked the question can then share, and then just have a little conversation around that, and maybe spend about 10 minutes with each card, no more than 10, 8 to 10. And then the person that picked the card can now nominate the next person to pick a card. And they can pick from one of the. We just went round robin. That conversation just flowed. It went on for about an hour, and I'll never forget. The question asked to me by someone I had just met and now who has become a really, really dear friend. And it was, if all progress starts by telling the truth, what
Mm.
truth do you want to bring to this 3-day event to help you
Wow.
grow?
And I love that you remember. You like,
Yeah. And but that was the question that I'm sure I'll remember that forever, because all of the questions were great from the 4, but we're just leaving you with that. Questions and conversations. Don't
oh,
just think of them in a business context. They can open up our lives.
yes, yes. If you find it difficult, okay, what question am I using? What am I doing? There are lots, like in Amazon, you can on Amazon you can find lots of possibilities, like cards that you can use with friends,
Yeah.
family.
I
And
bet you
if
have
you
an example
have,
of those, don't you, Polly?
yes,
What are
yes,
those?
exactly. So this one, oops, here is the changes card, and Michael is also, he's also a member at Exchange. He's an awesome person, and he developed those. And you can just bring out a card, you can answer yourself, and then you can do just like Steve said, in passing on the same card for everybody. So you were having conversations about, you can dig deeper. It is, I've done this with friends and with family. It's great. It is
Yeah,
great. You
just
get to know, you get to know the person in front of you to a deeper level.
yeah.
It is
So if you'd
nice.
like to start changing your world, even if we don't currently have the answers, or what we're exploring isn't even with the realm of possibility or our current capabilities, if you really want to unlock that, start thinking questions and conversations versus
Yes,
questions and answers.
I
Do you
love
have
it.
any closing thoughts, Polly?
That's been a wonderful conversation around questions.
Yes.
That's it.
Well, thank you. Well, we thank you, Polly, and we've just felt that today might be a good episode to at least share with our listeners and each other kind of the building blocks to thinking about what questions might best be most helpful for this event, this gathering, this dinner party. Um, and so, with that, this has been another episode of Questions and Conversations on Leadership and Life. And I'm Steve,
And I'm Polly, and we'll
and
see you
make it a
next.
great day.
Here you go. Awesome. Make it a great day. Bye, Steve. Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
Polly. Have a great day. Make it great.
Thank you for joining us in this episode of Questions and Conversations on Leadership and Life. We hope today's discussion inspires you to bring more intentional questions and deeper conversations into your own gatherings, be it at work, with friends, or at home. And remember, the right question can change your world before the answer even appears. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves great conversations. Until next time, make it a great day.